Welcome to Sex Ed with DB. I'm your host, Danielle Bezalel. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the podcast. If you love and support the work that we do, join my crew on Patreon to win amazing prizes like our adorable merch, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, private sessions with yours truly, and incredible sex toys. Go to patreon.com/sexedwithdb to join my crew. Get discounts at all of my favorite brands at sexedwithdb.com. And follow us on Instagram at sexedwithdbpodcast and on TikTok at sexedwithdb. If you want to partner with us, email us at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. Hey listeners, DB here. I'll be back with our regularly scheduled bonus episodes for more sex ed next week, but I'm popping into your feeds today to share something really exciting. It's a preview of Come As You Are, a new podcast I'm loving and think you will too. On Come As You Are, educator and best-selling author Dr. Emily Nagoski answers questions about sex with the latest science. You'll get a modern guide to sexual well-being backed by groundbreaking research about desire, anatomy, orgasm, and much more. In conversation with her producer, Emily debunks cultural myths and flips the script on everything you thought you knew about sex and sexuality. And like we do here on Sex Ed with DB, Come As You Are shares inclusive, science-backed ways that we can live a more pleasurable life in the bedroom and beyond. So it's no surprise that the last few years haven't exactly been great for anyone. Between a global pandemic, ongoing human rights issues, and climate crisis, it's no wonder we aren't feeling turned on. In this preview, Emily answers a listener question about losing the motivation to have sex, even with themselves. Emily speaks to why this loss of interest in sex is normal and introduces us to the dual control model, her favorite piece of groundbreaking research which offers a simple but radical shift in the way we think about getting in the mood. Okay, here's the preview. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Hear the full episode and more from Come As You Are, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, Emily.
Hi there.
Hi, Emily. My name I'm calling in because
I have a question for you. The other day I realized I haven't masturbated in like 6 months and I just don't feel like my old self.
You know, I get this question all the time, and mostly people expect me to say things like, oh, watch more porn and use fuzzy handcuffs. But actually the answer is sexual interest changes all the time. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong at all. And instead of worrying about how sexual interest comes and goes, can we focus instead on whether or not you're experiencing pleasure in your life? I'm Emily Nagoski, and this is the Come As You Are podcast, where I answer questions about sex with science. In this episode, I want to introduce you to a really simple but radical shift in the way we think about sexual interest. Pop culture teaches us it's all about getting turned on. Movies and TV portrayals of sexual desire have led us to a collective misunderstanding about how horniness really works, as in how it works in our brains. So today, we're going to talk about the real way horniness works. It's called the dual control model, and it is, in my opinion, one of the single most important, most life-changing pieces of research on human sexuality. I'm going to be answering a listener's question today, and bringing me that question is my producer, Mo. Hi, Mo.
Hey, Emily. Here we are. It's our very first episode of the Come As You Are podcast. How are you feeling about it?
It's thrilling. Aren't you thrilled? I'm thrilled.
I'm feeling really good. I also just feel really lucky to be on this show with you. Like, one, I'm, somatically incapable of chill. Like, I'm a very overeager person. But also, it's very special for me to get to work with you in particular, because I read your book, Come As You Are, when I was in college. I went to the University of North Carolina, UNC Chapel Hill. And your book was something I found on a suggested reading list, I think, in a women's studies course. And I just fell in love with the message of your book. And I kept Come As You Are on my mantelpiece in my off-campus college house. as a symbol for everyone that came over to my house that like I own my body and I'm having sex for me and I'm pursuing my own pleasure. And it was a big part of like my young slut era. And I really appreciate that gift you gave me.
That's amazing. I love that. I feel like it could not possibly be random chance. Like we were destined to work on this project together.
Yeah, your book really did change my perspective on so many things. And so when I heard that you were working on this show, I was like, please pick me, pick me. I was raising my hand really hard.
I love that.
Another reason I'm so excited for this podcast to exist because like I grew up in a small town in North Carolina and I had abstinence only sex ed. And I was a like unknowing at the time little gay kid. And I basically was horrified and scared by the sexual education that I got or the lack of sexual education that I got. But the little that I did get was basically like STDs can kill you. And if you have sex once, you're ruined forever. And no one will want you after that. And that really, it affected me. And I think having real and non-judgmental information, like the message that you have, Come As You Are, and in all your work, like having that out there actually makes a huge difference in people's everyday sex lives.
Oh, yay. And I see my work as being the opposite of abstinence-only education, not because I'm like everybody should have sex all the time. I think people should have sex when and how they choose to, when is right for themselves, but because I believe that sex need not be scary in our lives. I think that if we can embrace pleasure into our lives, that's really the whole basis of my work. It's the whole basis of the show, the Prelude episode with Adrienne Marie Brown. If you haven't heard it yet, please go back and listen to it.
Yes.
That's really the foundation of everything we're going to be talking about.
Hard agree. I put a lot of special love into the Prelude. But this episode is our first episode where we're going to be answering a listener question. So we got a message on the Come As You Are hotline, 646-397-8557. I chose it because it really speaks to the time we're in right now. Like the pandemic has changed a lot of our relationships with ourselves and of course with sex and with masturbation, but also just pleasure on the day-to-day, like just everyday pleasures and happiness.
I think you're absolutely right. Rates of mental health struggles have vastly increased. People's sense of overwhelm and exhaustion and existential dread have increased vastly just over the last couple of years. And is that going to interfere with our sex lives? You bet your bippy.
Right. Exactly. Yes. I wanted to pull a question from a caller whose sexual desire or horniness has basically changed drastically during the pandemic. All right. So here we go.
Hi, my name is Sarah. My pronouns are she, her. I'm 34 and single, and I used to have a lot of fun with myself. I had and I still have all these fancy toys, but over the last few years, it's like my desire to masturbate has just completely faded away. Like the other day, I realized I haven't masturbated in like 6 months, and I just don't feel like my old self. Watching porn does not cross my mind. I bought this new toy to even help me get back in the mood, and I've only used it once. I don't even want to get out there and date because I'm just not motivated by sex. It sounds like work to me, and I don't know what's wrong. Like by the time I get home from work, walk my dog, make dinner, I just want to sit down and watch TV, and I feel really tired all the time. And so I wonder if you can help me figure out what's wrong with me.
This answer might shock you, but no, I can't explain what's wrong with you because there is nothing wrong with you. Everything that we're hearing in this question is just Sarah's brain responding normally to an abnormal world, which makes it the chef's kiss perfect question for explaining the dual control model, how our brains process sex-related information.
What science do we need to understand to answer this question for Sarah?
Okay, this is thrilling for me. It's like I'm introducing you to my most famous friend. Welcome to the dual control model. Dual control model means there's two parts, and the first part is that sexual accelerator that gets turned on. It notices all the sexy information in the environment. That's everything you feel with your basic senses, what you see, hear, smell, touch, taste, but also the things that you think, believe, or imagine, and also the sensations inside your body. The sexual excitation system, the accelerator, notices all of that, and it sends that turn on signal that many of us are familiar with. But also, at the same time, in parallel, you have brakes that are noticing all the good reasons not to be turned on right now. Everything with your basic senses, everything you see, hear, smell, touch, taste, and everything you think, believe, or imagine, and all the sensations in your body. It notices everything that's a potential threat, and it sends the turn off signal. So arousal is not just the process of turning on the ons, it's also, and more importantly, the process of turning off the offs. When people are struggling, the usual advice of how to deal with any difficulty around arousal, pleasure, desire, orgasm, the usual advice you hear is like, let's add stimulation to the accelerator, watching porn, doing role play, handcuffs, all that stuff. And sometimes that can work and can be great. But a lot of the time, when people are struggling, it's not because there's too little stimulation to the accelerator. It's because there is too much stimulation to the brakes. Our listener says it's been a couple of years. What's been happening the last couple of years?
Right.
I don't know, a global pandemic where your breath could potentially carry a lethal virus? That might hit the brake as like a good reason not to be turned on right now, as a potential threat. She says the dating feels just like a lot of work. No kidding.
The first time I heard this, Emily, this truly blew my mind.
Me too. And what I especially love, so this is one of my favorite things about the dual control model, is that there can be some stimuli that both hit the accelerator and hit the brake.
What?
Especially someone like you who grew up being told that sex is like dirty and dangerous. Sex-related stimuli will activate the accelerator because it's sex-related, but also you were taught it's dirty and dangerous, and so it's also going to hit the brake. And what effect is that going to have on your sexual arousal, sexual interest?
Whoa.
That was a preview of Come As You Are, a new podcast from Pushkin Industries. Hear more from Come As You Are wherever you get your podcasts. Our creator, host, and executive producer is me, Danielle Bezalel, aka DB. Our co-producer and communications lead is Cathren Cohen. Our co-producer is Brian Peoples. Our social media intern is Sarah Kelly. Our music theme is by Hook Sounds. Thank you so much to our featured guests, partners, and our listeners. Want to advertise with us? Email us at sexedwithdb@gmail.com. For more sex ed content, follow us on IG at sexedwithdbpodcast and on TikTok at sexedwithdb. See you next time.